Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We're going to give a minute or two to let people continue to join. I see the attendees count is climbing, so we'll let people get connected and we'll get underway in just a minute. Thanks, everyone, for joining our webinar. We're still letting people in, watching the attendees list climb up, so people are still connecting, and we'll get underway here shortly. For those of you that have joined, we're just waiting as people continue to log in, and we will get underway with the webinar in just a minute. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, Conquering CLE Compliance, Mastering California's New CLE Rules and Accredited Provider Reporting. We started the Conquering CLE Compliance webinar series last year with a presentation on the New York Year-End Report, and we're happy to be continuing it with other topics to help you navigate the ever-changing CLE rules and regulations. Just a quick note that this presentation is confidential. And some housekeeping. Our presentation is going to be about 30 to 45 minutes. We'll have a QA session as well. We encourage all of you to use the question section on your GoToWebinar panel and send in any questions, and we'll address them towards the end of the presentation. The recording will be sent out via email following this. So if there's things you want to go back and review, you'll be able to do that. Here's our agenda. Today we'll be talking about one of your favorite topics, California CLE. And this will be broken up into two sections, one about the CLE compliance rules and one about how to report the California CLE programs that your firm teaches. Now for your speakers. My name is Adam Stein, and I'm a Senior Product Value Engineer here at Litera. I work with our customers and our prospects to help educate them on our products and how best to use them to meet their business needs. I'm happy to be joined today by my esteemed colleague, Eric Romanishin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Romanishin, and I'm a product owner at Litera, and I work on CE Manager as the subject matter expert on CLE rules and regulations.
So it's good to be in the company of a fellow CLE compliance expert. Eric, thanks for sharing your expertise with us today. And thanks to everyone who's joined our webinar. Now, let's go conquer some CLE compliance. We're going to turn our attention first specifically to the new California CLE rules. We're going to focus on credit hour requirements for attorneys in order for them to be in compliance. And just to throw some fun out there, we all know California is the happiest place in the world for a reason. Just a quick review to start with the compliance groups in California. What you see here is directly from the California State Bar website, and you can see the source link at the bottom. Group 1, who are attorneys that have the last name beginning with A through G, is the next to report compliancy and renew on January 31st, 2025. Remember that groups go by the last name at the time of admission. So even if an attorney later changes their last name, their compliance renewal still goes by their last name when they were admitted to the bar. I'll come back to this slide in a minute, but we wanted to mention about a possible date change.
As some of you may know, California may be updating the compliance renewal date. We don't have any definitive information, but we are preparing to act once the board has confirmed the specifications.
Back to this slide showing the compliance groups. The California website is still displaying Group 2 as compliant in 2024, which it did earlier this year. But the next compliance date for this group, whose last names begin with H through M, is in 2027. Then Group 3, whose last names begin with N through Z, they must comply in 2026. On all of these groups, you can see that the credits must be earned by January 31st and then reported by the next day, February 1st. Here we're displaying the credit types and credit hours that must be earned for each group. Note that the credits we're displaying currently are Group 2 with the former rules that were due earlier this year. And now keep your eyes on it. Here are the ones due in 2027. These are following the newer rules. So Group 1, 2, and 3, all reporting in 25, 26, and 27, have the newer rules. And what's changed is that there's an additional hour in competence. So whereas there was 1 hour in competence, there's now 2. And specifically with that, there is an hour of prevention and detection that is required. There's also 2 new categories: technology and the practice of law, where you need 1 credit hour, and civility in the legal profession. Eric, can you talk a little bit about some of the additional regulations?
Sure. Just some additional details to keep in mind. While we are tracking the new 2 credit types, which is tech and the practice of law and civility in the legal profession, we have confirmed with the board some other ways that the board is tracking the credits, especially around excess credits. So looking at the screen, we just want to confirm and just remind everyone that excess implicit bias can be applied to recognition and elimination of bias. Excess ethics can be applied towards all other credit types except bias. Also, as many of you know, no more than 50% of applied credit hours may be in self-study. And lastly, the best thing about California is that they do not allow any carryover credit.
That's true, and that can be seen on the chart here I'm showing now. So when thinking about tracking the new California rules and the compliancy for your attorneys, giving you here some visuals on how the rules can be laid out in a chart for easy consumption. This is Group 1, and notice the credit types. So each one of the ones we've been going over now, you can see, as well as the required credits for each of those categories. As your attorney earns credits, they'll be in this column. Again, pointing out that there's no carryover columns that you might see in other jurisdictions, since California has no carryovers. And then I want to focus you on credits needed. This is always a good column to focus on in the individual categories and the totals. And this is certainly something you can point out to your attorneys so that can help them watch their compliancy. Here's a visual on group 2. Notice the chart is the same, just the due date is different. And then group 3, again, chart is the same credit types and hours, but the due date's different. We want to talk a little bit about some of the credits and how they display on the chart. Eric, do you want to take this up?
Sure. So on the screenshot, you can see listed that we do have all the new credit types added, such as, we mentioned before, check, impartial law, and the new stability credit. But let's dig into the competence credit. California requires attorneys to earn 2 credit hours in competence issues, where at least 1 credit hour must be in prevention and detection competence. There's also an optional wellness competence credit that can be counted towards the overall 2 requirements. After confirming with the California board, we have examples of how those credits can be earned and how they would display on the chart. On this screenshot, which is example 1, an attorney may earn 2 of the credit hours in prevention and detection. There is no limitation around that. Both credits can fill the requirement, as you see displayed on the screen. Looking at the competence credit needed as well, you can see that the credits needed column was reduced to 0. Moving on to the next slide, which is example 2. This is where an attorney has earned 1 credit in prevention and detection and 1 credit in wellness competence, which will again fulfill the overall 2 requirements. And you can see separated on both of the lines, the amount needed has been reduced to 0. For the third example, this next example displays a user earning just 2 credit hours in wellness competence. Now, as the board mentioned, if you are earning 2 competence credits, 1 must be in prevention and detection. So as you can see, the competence requirement has been fulfilled, the single one standalone. However, the prevention and detection is still needed. That second excess wellness credit will apply towards general and reduce the amount needed. So on the screen, you can see the overall 15 that was required has now been reduced to 14.
Great, Eric. Those are some good details and some things to watch out for, especially with those new rules. We'd like to engage with you now to get some of your feedback by taking a poll. This is about planning programs with those new California credit types. If you are an accredited provider, the question is, have you started planning programs with the new California credit types? So you should see on your screen the poll and your ability to go in and choose your answer. Don't be shy, go ahead and click in and let's see what some of you think. I'm starting to see some things come in. We'll give a few more seconds or so for you to get your answers in. We're seeing that some have already taught courses, seeing some thinking about it. I'll give you the results here in a minute. We've got we're getting close to 60% of you voting. Now we're over 60. This is always fun on my end to watch this go. Got about 70%. Let's try to get up to 80 or even a little bit above. So if you are listening and looking at your poll here, you can see, what are you doing with the California credit types for your firm if you're an accredited provider? Another few seconds, we'll let people participate. Almost up to 75% of you. All right, so it's pretty steady at this point. Let's go ahead and close the poll, and I think that will show the percentages on your screen. So it looks like the winner here is that some of you are thinking about it, but you haven't. So there's some of those new credit types certainly with the prevention and detection, with the civility and with the technology. Obviously, technology is going to be a popular one, just in general, with the trend of, in our society of needing to be involved in technology on a daily basis. And then right behind that, 27% of you have already taught courses with these credits, so that's great. And actually, then there's another 15% that have started planning, so you're in progress. So I guess between the already have taught and started planning, 42% on quick math there beats the thinkers who are thinking about it. So we encourage all of you to get these credit types out there. People will certainly appreciate, because ultimately your attorneys have to fulfill those credits. So that kind of segues into our next section in our webinar, where we're going to talk about firms who teach their own CLE programs and how they have to report up to the State Bar of California what you've done. So if you're an accredited provider, you have to do some reporting to the California State Bar. One of the most important things to know is that you must provide the State Bar with electronic attendance records for any of the MCLE participatory activity within 60 days of completion of that activity. Listed here on this slide it's directly from the State Bar, and there's steps that you need to follow. Down below is the link directly to their website with more information about your responsibilities as a provider. The good news for those of you that use CManager is that we help you with several of those steps, including these first two that we've highlighted, which you won't have to do because you can run the report directly in CManager and it will auto-populate the data for you. One important note is that as you create this report file out of CManager, it has to be named a certain way. This is directly from the State Bar with your provider number plus the 4-digit year. If you've populated your provider number in CManager, it will automatically populate the name of the report file. So now I'm going to show you running the report in CManager. What you're seeing on screen right now is CManager. I'm in a live database, a fictitious one, firm Irving Robbins, and you can mimic this in your own CManager. From the menu in the reports area, you'll be able to go into your sub tabs, particularly the provider reports. Notice that I've favorited a few of reports, and California here's at the top, so that's convenient. And then I can go ahead and click in, and I've got some criteria that I can select from. Here's where you would select the date range of the data that will be compiled into the particular report you're going to run right now. And a best practice that we've been hearing from firms is to upload on the first day of the month for the month prior. So this will help you have a dependable process in place. Remember that in CManager reporting, you can save criteria and come back to it later. So you can see here, my September slots are already there, but maybe I want to go ahead and work with my October, my current month. And I've saved those in before, so I selected them again. So maybe you're working throughout the month to sort of prep this report up. And I've got my date range in there now, which is nice. Then there's this participant count field. Eric, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you, Adam. The participant count allows you to select whether or not you want to include only licensed California participants or all of your participants on that session. We did reach out to the board and asked which is their preferred option, and they confirmed it is at the provider's discretion. So each provider that is uploading the template can choose to include all participants or just strictly California licensed participants.
So you can make your selections as you wish, according to what Eric just talked about. And once you've made those selections, go ahead and click search. And what you're going to see down below is the list of sessions that are included. If you have a page 2 or beyond, you'll see those as well. You can drop this top part out and you can select all. That will check everything below and on the next pages. And then you can generate the report. Notice that CE Manager automatically puts my provider number that I filled in. It does also put this California report and the month in, and we just suggest deleting that so that you're following the California State Bar naming convention. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. So I've saved it on my desktop or my folder, and let's go ahead and open it and take a look at it. As that's coming up on screen, you'll see it here. Eric, you want to talk us through the report?
Sure. So the report template does consist of 3 separate tabs. On the first tab, this is the General Instructions tab, which provides detailed instructions for providers on how to populate the template, which is a very manual process for those who don't have CE Manager. We have taken all of the instructions from this tab, and we have CE Manager auto-populating the data for you. If we move on to the second tab, which is the course information, tab 2 will list all of the courses you have exported based on your selected date range. This section will be populated with all sessions that are awarding California credit, and will display all the required information the board needs, such as the course code, the course name, credit amounts, and the instructors. If we pop over to the final third tab, which is the attendance information, this will display the list of validated participants on the selected sessions. As you can see, each participant has a corresponding course ID that matches a course on the course information tab, which is the previous one. This entire section will display all of the earned credit for each user, when they've taken it, which is all the data that the board has access to populate based on the general information tab.
Great. It's a good run through that report. A lot of details in there, but CE Manager downloads everything from your database right into that report. The next step is to upload it to the state bar. You're seeing a screenshot here of what the report upload area will look like. I'm going to bring up this area of the State Bar of California website. This is the MCLE provider responsibilities area. You can find that particularly under MCLE providers. You can see the menu I'm scrolling over now and the provider responsibilities. This is a list of those steps. You saw those before in one of the earlier slides. But then in step 3 is the form upload. So you've got your report, you're ready to upload it. And when you click into that form, you'll be on this page. And Eric, you want to talk us through this?
Sure. Adam, if you could just pop back over to the other page, I'm sure Adam touched base on this. The link right above that does have that the template that you can download from the board website, but that has been painstakingly rebuilt in CE Manager to the exact details. But once you do click on that upload form, it does provide you instructions on how to upload this template. You're going to fill in the basic provider information. There are some very specific details that the board does want you to take note of. One is that there is an upload size limit, which is 100 MB per file and 500 MB for multiple files. So when you are exporting that file and template from CManager, please take note of the file size so you don't run into any errors when uploading the file to the board. Another thing to note that there is a small change to the template that the board has done, where previously when we are uploading or populating the course information tab, each course format corresponds with a course format number. Previously, there was 8 different formats where specifically format 6 and 7 were separated, one for on-demand audio and one for on-demand video. Now the board has made an update to the template, consolidating format number 6 and 7 into a single format. So they've reduced it by 1, where on-demand audio and video will be combined into a single format number. Currently, the update is coded and ready to be released on our next release, which is on October 7th. So you will see that change once the release on October 27th has been updated in your database. Also, to help you reading, to help you read and run the report, in our help site, we have a quick reference guide for the California report. This guide will display how to run the report. I'll let Abby just pull it up so we can see it together. So when you access our help site, if you go to our report section, which has quick reference guides for most of our provider reports. Down on the bottom, you can see the one for the California MCLE provider report. And this reference guide walks you through the steps of running and exporting the report. We also have a detailed mapping section for each of the fields on the course information tab and the attendees information tab. So you know what field that data is being populated from. So if you are looking at the report and you want to do a quick audit or review, and you have questions on what's supposed to be here, if something's missing, you can go right back to the session based on the mapping here and find out where that data is being pulled.
That's a good thing to know about. So we encourage administrators, as you're running the report, to check in with the mapping. That way you can see, from where in CManager is it populating this report. So we encourage you to use this. Let's see, I'm going to get back to our PowerPoint here. Coming up. All right, so we've looked at a lot of parts of the provider report, how you can utilize it, how it automatically populates, and we want to put another poll out there. So we'll go ahead and open up this one, which is, have you run the California MCLE provider report in CManager yet? And wanted to get some feedback from you all. Have you run it with success? Have you run it, but maybe you have some concerns? Maybe some of you are going to run it as soon as this webinar is over because you're so excited about it. Or possibly there's some of you that are not an accredited provider yet in California. So we're seeing people jump in already. That's great. Got about 20% voting in. And a good percentage of you, I can tell you right away, have run it with success. So that is great to hear. We'll give a 30 seconds or so for you guys to all vote. So go ahead and the poll should be on your screen. And again, the question is, have you run the report in CManager? I imagine some of you might have been looking at it manually or trying to fill the template yourself. Hopefully with the tools you're learning today, you'll be able to run this now. A little over half of you have voted. We'll give it a few more seconds here. We appreciate all your input. All right, so about 60% of you have voted, and it's slowing down here. So we'll go ahead and close the poll, and I'll give you the results. So 39% of you have run it with success, which is great to hear. 19% of you have run it, but you have some concerns. So one thing to consider is if one of those concerns pops up in your head right now, and it's a question you can put into the GoToWebinar questions area, we can try to address that right now on the webinar. Looks like 31% of you have not run it yet, but you plan to. So that's great to hear. And then about 11% of you are not California accredited providers. So lucky you guys. But of course, we encourage you to become an accredited provider and make the most of that. So we're seeing a lot of success with the report. We're glad about that, of course. Let's actually go to the questions now and see if we can pick up any and help you out. Eric, you want to go ahead and address anything that you see?
Sure. So one of the questions I received was, can California licensed attorneys see transcript of the course information that is being uploaded to the California board? And if not, is the California board adding a feature for that? For that, unfortunately, we have not been able to confirm any information with the California board on any updates that they're doing on their end, and whether or not the California licensed attorneys can see a transcript of what's being uploaded. But we will be reaching out to the California board to see if we can get any clarity on that. Another question that we've listed was on the attendance tab, which last name is listed on the list of users. That is, that last name is being pulled from the last name at the time of admittance field in CLE Manager. If that field is not populated, we automatically populate it with the current last name that's in the system. So whatever last name we have populated on that field for the last name at the time of admittance, that's just going to be listed there.
That's a great question. I'm glad someone asked about that.
Another one is for the course information tab. Is the course information tab pulling in all courses with California credit or only courses with validated users? For that, on the course information tab, it's only pulling in California accredited courses that have validated users listed. So depending on your selection, if you're selecting on the participant dropdown when you're exporting it to only include California licensed attorneys, if that California course has validated users on it, but none are licensed California attorneys, that course will not pull into the export. But if you select the second option to include everyone, then it will be included. Alternatively, if you do have a session that is awarding California credit, but no one is validated on it yet, that course will not pull into the template as well. Another question was, well, not a question, but just a clarification. And I think this is stemming from the excess credits for wellness, where they're asking, it looks like when there's excess credit, CLE Manager automatically applies to the other credit types as applicable. That is correct. We have the coding into the system, so any excess credit earned, CLE Manager will apply based on the rules where that is applicable. So you as the admin do not have to go in and move that credit to a different credit type, and so that credit does not go unused.
That's great. then those excess get appropriately put into the report and shown, and the credits needed recalculated accordingly, right?
Correct.
Maybe one last one. Thanks, Eric, for sifting through the questions here.
A final question is, has California provided guidelines or help or hints for any new credit types being added, such as cybersecurity? We haven't heard anything like that at the moment. We are keeping abreast of all changes in the CLE space. We have not heard wind of any new additional credit types.
Probably the closest thing to the cybersecurity is the new technology credit. Although that is a bit different, I suppose. That's a good segue into one of our final slides here as we wrap up the webinar. We wanted to point out a newer section of our product release notes that we email when we make a product update. And this is approximately once a month. Excuse me. What you're seeing on screen is the compliance corner. And you'll see that in the email. And it's where we list out CLE changes that we're monitoring. So look for this area of the product updates email. And you can see this example from September. So something like that was just asked about, if we hear about the cybersecurity coming in California, which, like Eric said, hasn't been corroborated or not, but this is a place that you would see it. We started this up after feedback from firms who wanted even more information from us about the things that we're monitoring and the updates that we're making. And of course, the updates themselves include CLE updates that will affect your compliance. So make sure to watch out for these emails. So with that, I'd like to thank my fellow presenter, Eric Romanishin, and all of you who have joined today. Hope all of you have a great Halloween coming up. We expect that you will dress up as a CLE compliance cop and carry a CE manager logo in one hand with a whistle in the other. Have a good rest of the week and keep conquering CLE compliance. Take care, everybody.